Hello and welcome to the TJ Walker Show. Thanks so much for joining me today. Today is a little bit different. I'm not going to be taking as many questions, at least right out of the gate. I am going to be showing you sort of behind the scenes of how I produce short form videos for places like TikTok, YouTube, and other places. So I try to be as responsive to you as possible for these live segments, but I'm also kind of showing you just behind the scenes of how at least one creator goes about the production process. If you do have a question or a topic you think would be interesting for you, and also possibly be interesting for others as a either short form, produced, edited on demand video, or a long form, post it here. I will be getting to those later today, but first I'm going to go through sort of a backlog of ones I've been working on. And I'll be starting from a different camera angle. These tend to work best for my short form videos. Okay, there's a lot of whining about cancel culture. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but wake up a minute. Things are so different from the past. There was a time, if you were a Hollywood actor and you were suspected as being gay or of being a communist, your career was over. Nobody ever heard from you again. These days, you say something a little off, a little weird, offend someone, or you do some atrocity, even commit crimes. You can have your own podcast, your own YouTube channel, your own social media empire. You can still make $5 million a year. So let's get a grip on how bad cancel culture is today versus decades ago. Okay, that is one. And I see we have a few folks joining me. Thanks so much for joining. If you have a question you want me to address, please let me know. I'm going to be trying to make as many short form videos as possible today so that my production team, edit team can kind of get ahead of the curve and get a lot of things produced. That way, if I'm off training for a week or on vacation or traveling, we could still have consistent content being posted every single day on this channel. So let me go to the next topic that I have planned. Let's see, I've done that one. So again, this is not a slick, polished show here today. You're seeing the actual behind the scenes production process. So I'm bringing you into it. This is a question from one of my students and friends, Lay. And she says, what is the most cost-effective and time-efficient way of getting more speaking engagements on your calendar? I believe the old way of researching the conferences and then pitching the coordinators is not the way to do it. Oh, that may be, oh, that was my response to her. Okay, so let me do a short form on that. Go to camera 2, hit record. What's the most efficient way, the quickest way to get speaking engagement? That's why I'm showing you this in real time. Everybody messes up. I mess up. I want you to see it's okay to mess up. You just stop and start over again, hoping this motivates you to make your own videos as well. What's the most efficient way? What's the most efficient and time-efficient way of getting speaking gigs in the modern era? It's not about getting DVDs and mailing them out to speaker bureaus and doing your one sheets and calling and cold calling. No. The most efficient way in the modern world is to actually speak every day to a large committed audience online. Post your videos on YouTube, LinkedIn, TikTok, any and every social media possible, and build a following, build a tribe of people who really care about your ideas. Do that. The speaking gigs will come flowing to you magically. Okay, that is I don't usually mess up twice, but again, who cares? Sometimes I can do 100 videos in a day without making a single mistake, do it in one take. Other times I may stumble 3 times, just a certain word or certain phrase. The point I want you to see is this all can be done relatively quickly and relatively easily. This is your first time here. You may be wondering, am I using a teleprompter? Have I memorized a script? No, I'm doing this off the top of my head, but I'm not just like making up BS. I am delivering insights based on working in this field for decades and decades with tens of thousands of people all over the globe and millions of students online. So that's where it's coming from. It is coming from a very deep well of experience. Okay, so we're going to the next question. These are topics that either people have emailed me or I have thought of and written down and just created a note that I want to do that. Okay. Oh, this one I'm actually going to do from this angle. Everyone gets thirsty from time to time, especially when you're speaking or a little bit nervous. So if you're speaking on a webinar or connecting with people in a format like this, it's natural to go dry and lick your lips. The problem is on camera, it looks creepy to lick your lips. My recommendation, keep water nearby and just occasionally have a sip of water. That will keep you lubricated and will keep you from having your tongue come out and looking like a lizard. You don't want that. Okay. Simple short form on why it's important to drink water. Okay. Now I'm also trying to note exactly what I'm doing so I don't do it again. So as I go through these in my email, I am putting a star next to it so that I know that I've done it. What I haven't figured out is how to know which ones I'm doing for short form versus long form. Okay, here's one I definitely want to talk about. You're hardworking, you're ambitious. So what do you do the night before a big speech? If you're like a lot of people, you stay up late, you pour the pot of coffee, you're working because you want to be great, right? Wrong. That's the worst thing you could do. You want to go to bed early. You want a great night's sleep. You don't want bags under your eyes and dark circles. If you've done your preparation the right way, you rehearsed on video to the point where you like what you see, you shouldn't be spending late nights writing and rewriting bullet points and scripts and commas and changing the logo. That should have been done before. You need a great night's sleep before your big speech. Shoot, I didn't really want to leave that bottle there, but I think it will still work. Okay. And thanks for those of you joining me live. This is sort of a behind the scenes workshop today I'm just making short form videos, content that will be distributed on 8 to 10 platforms. Same video goes out on different platforms, different days. We mix it up. Something that appears on YouTube one day, maybe on Facebook a week later, LinkedIn 2 days before that, and we mix it up. So that's what I'm doing right here. By the way, if you're noticing anything, like maybe you noticed in that one I had this bottle in the screen, please, I would appreciate any feedback you have. I'm not here with some giant production team. I don't have assistant directors and gappers around. I'm here alone in this studio. So if you can't hear anything, for example, tell me, or all of a sudden the audio is really bad, maybe I accidentally hit the microphone. So I would love any feedback you could give me. Of course, if you have a question, I will most likely answer your question, try to do it in a short form and a long format as well. But if you just want to give me feedback on what you like, what you don't like, if you notice one of the lights behind me is flickering, let me know. And you can just type it right into the comment section. I was going to change this green light behind me, but not this one. Okay. Let me see if I can make this blue. I've not quite figured out the sequencing on these lights yet. Okay, let's go to the next topic. Okay, don't stay up late. We did that. Okay. Someone has scheduled a meeting to talk to you about hiring you. Great news. That's fantastic. You can't wait to tell them about all the things you'll do for them. Time out. That's not how you should start. The first thing you should ask them is, well, why did you want to book a meeting with me? Did you see something in my website? What was it? Why are we here? And then listen, quite often you'll get them to sell themselves by talking about you. Plus, they may mention something they really liked about you that you didn't even think was relevant, might not have been a part of your sales message. But if it's meaningful to them, you can talk about them and talk about their concerns. Ask the question, then listen. Okay. And I see Wardu has joined us. Wardu, thank you so much for saying hello. Others have joining us again. If you just stopped by, thank you so much for doing so. This is a behind the scenes workshop today. I'm actually showing you my process for making videos. There's been a lot of talk lately about how people's self-esteem is low. The more that they consume social media makes them feel bad because everyone seems so polished and slick and beautiful and have dramatic lives. And there has been a lot of research that the more people consume social media, kind of the lower their self-esteem gets. In many cases, it can cause paralysis. So one of the reasons I'm doing this is I'm showing you, warts and all, how video is made. So you see my mistakes. You see everything is not instantly perfect the first draft. I will occasionally do something for 2 minutes, stumble over a word, stop, go back to the previous paragraph in my mind or sentence, keep going, knowing my editors will chop that out and put a picture in between so it seems like I was just perfectly fluent for the whole 10, 12-minute video. Sometimes I am, but not always. So that's what we're doing here. I'm sort of taking you, metaphorically behind these curtains so you can see what's really there. And I hope that you find it useful, and I hope that it motivates you to create your own content. As much as I love you watching me and participating here and being a part of this channel, I'm hoping to motivate you to share your own expertise with the world in a video format. So let me get to the next question. I'm going to star that so I know not to do it again. Don't ever tell somebody, trust me. You can trust me. That is a red flag right there. If you want people to trust you, be trustworthy. That's how you gain trust. The more you have to ask people for trust or beg them to trust you, that just arouses suspicion. Show up on time, keep your promises, deliver what you say you're going to. Then you will have earned trust. Okay. And again, those of you just joining me, what I'm doing is I'm being my own producer and mixer. I'm pushing a mixer, controlling what camera, and I'm controlling what I am recording from, coming in from 1, 2, 3 separate feeds for the master copy and the highest quality of the video. If I send my editing team all 3 hours of the raw footage, it's too much for them to sift through and would be massively more time consuming and expensive. Our good friend Madhav says hello. Wardo also says, of course, and thanks. And Madhav, always happy to see you here. If you have a question that you think would be interesting, not only to you, but other people, for me to answer, post it. I'm going through sort of my database of questions I've accumulated over time that I just haven't gotten to yet. But I'm going to be looking for more. I'm trying to make as many short form videos today as possible in our time. So I'm switching back into my Gmail where I just keep a folder for questions, and I'm putting a star next to it. Not every single time someone asks you a question does it deserve a response. Sometimes if someone is being really rude or condescending, just looking at them like can be enough. I don't know if that one really works or not, but we'll play with it and see. Michael's writing, hello, is your background also done by chroma keying? So if you look at most of my videos for the last 3 years or the last 2 years on my channel until a month ago, they were done in front of a giant green screen, which I now have folded up and in this corner. Everything you see here is a real set. So if you see anything from this angle or this angle, this is real. There's no chroma key. This is real. This is an actual curtain here. The camera's lower. So if you see anything that looks like that, it's not chroma key. Now, that doesn't mean my editing team might not put something behind me, especially if I have a solid. It's relatively easy to pull that color out and put a new picture in. So the reason I've shifted away from chroma key is when I look at the most successful YouTubers, the trend just seems to be they're not doing chroma key. They're doing real things in real offices or outdoors or real kitchens or real studios. What I'm hoping, especially with this angle, is I make this production have sort of a bigger feel to it, a more expensive feel. And I don't just seem like a guy possibly in his basement or his bedroom hunched over a little laptop. So it has a bigger feel to it. I've cropped this so that you can actually see me moving around, gesturing, doing things that people actually do when they are giving a speech or a presentation. So that's why I have it. I'm not suggesting that this is the perfect angle for most people. In fact, some people have commented and said, TJ, this angle's weird. I shouldn't see this much of you. I'm doing it this way because when you're giving a speech or presentation, you are often seen this way, and it makes people feel uncomfortable. But there's real depth here. So, you can see basically how small I'm getting now. You can see, I mean, it's not a giant room. It's maybe 20 feet by 20 feet. But it is devoted just to this studio and what we're doing here. So that's why I'm doing it, trying to make it seem, frankly, a little slicker, a little bigger budget. And it did cost, not 6 figures, but heavy 5 figures to make all this. So that's what we're doing. And I appreciate you asking there. Now, Via says, please make a short form on attention span. How can we retain audience's attention? So a number of great questions are coming in. And Eduardo says, you can come back. We're always happy for you to come back. Michael says, lack of space. Let's talk about that because let me save that for the video because that's a great one. Let me go to. You know what? Let me start this from camera one. What do you do if you want to make great YouTube videos, online social media videos, but you don't have some big studio and space? You just have a small little space. Guess what? Most people don't care. If people can see your face, a little lighting, and hear your voice, and you say something interesting that's either useful to them or entertaining for them, they will love you and they will watch you. So don't worry about having a big studio. Okay. Let me hit stop. All right. Who asked about that? So that was Michael's question. And I tried to give sort of a short form answer to that. So here's the thing I don't recommend is the built-in chroma key that comes with Zoom and stuff, because what happens is half your head is pixelating and your hair is disappearing. I don't mean disappearing the way mine does naturally. I mean artificially disappearing. You move your hands. It's very distracting. I think you're better off with just simple wall painting, a picture, a bookshelf, rather than the fake chroma key. But if people are going to only see you from here up, that's okay. And there's a wall right behind you. I mean, for years and years, even though I had this same big room, I was just sitting 6 inches away from a brick wall, plastic black backdrop. And, I'd occasionally annoyed someone, but worked fine for me for years. So I wouldn't worry about having a big studio or a lot of space, as long as you can find some place that's quiet, because it is going to be disruptive if people are trying to listen to what you say and there's just an awful lot of noise going on. Okay. So let me see what other questions have come in. Attention span. Madhav has asked about attention span. What do we do about the problem of short attention spans? You've heard it. People don't have an attention span longer than a goldfish, right? Oh my gosh, I better be quick and concise, right? Time out. People will give you their attention if you're interesting and you're useful and you're memorable. You can talk for 10 minutes, 10 hours. If you're interesting, people will hang on your every word. If you're boring, they're going to tune out, forget 8 seconds. After 2 seconds, they'll be gone. Focus on being interesting. Okay. That I do think is a very important point, because a lot of people fixate on being concise because they're worried about attention spans, and they strip out everything that's interesting. They strip out their stories and their examples, and they completely missed an opportunity to communicate. Okay. I talked about the chroma key, attention span. We talk about the Toastmasters Club. Okay, I've done a number of videos on Toastmasters, but it's been a while. Let's do another one. And if you're just now joining me, this is not some slick production here today. This is me taking you behind the scenes as I make short form videos for my YouTube channel and TikTok channel, and Facebook, and all the others. So I am going through a list of topics that I've accumulated, topic questions that people have emailed to me, and a number of you are nice enough to post your comments too. I've lost my dimple in my tie today. Ah, it's back. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So the next Toastmasters. How do you get more practice as a speaker? Well, go to Google and type in Toastmasters near me. Find the nearest club and join. And when you get there, speak and record everything you say with your own cell phone. No one else will mind. By speaking regularly at every meeting and getting feedback from people who are at, and by getting feedback from people who are just trying to help you, you will become a more confident speaker and a better speaker. Okay. So I do like Toastmasters. I have been asked to speak at them, various chapters all over the world. My only caveat is some people get so into the internal politics of, oh, I'm going to be the general grand master poobah of the 32nd degree region, and they're so focused on the conventions and these titles and things. I think sometimes people don't get as much out of it as they should. But certainly as a way of spending time and building yourself and meeting people who are interested in bettering themselves, it's so much better than, sitting around drinking beer and watching a lot of sports games on TV at a pub. So I do recommend to people that they may want to consider Toastmasters. The only caveat is, if you want to speak more, you got an opportunity right here. Speak on video to the whole world every single day. You don't have to travel anywhere. You don't have to schedule. Now, they're not mutually exclusive. You can do both. You can go to Toastmasters once a week, once a month, and make videos here once a week, even once a day. Okay, let's see if any other questions have come in before I go back to mine. Barb's asking, did I hear you have spent in high five figures? No, 5 figures, but not high 5 figures, Barb. So no, it's not that much. But when I put everything together, yes, wait, 5 yeah, 5 figures. I definitely have spent 5 figures on this studio. Now that includes things like, this camera and the lens, I think, is about $4,000. This camera, I think, was a $2,700 camera and a $400 lens. So that puts it over $3,000. So things like that start adding up, and lights and backdrop and everything else, new desks. So yes, it does in fact add up. Madhav says, I'm a student and I have Indian English accent. Do accents matter? I've talked about this a fair amount, but let me do another short form video for you right now on that. Oh my gosh, TJ, I have an accent. I'm worried this is going to hold me back as a speaker. Well, guess what? Everybody has an accent. I have an accent. All that really matters is, can people understand you? Spend less time worrying about your accent, more time making sure you have interesting ideas, memorable ideas that people can actually understand. Do that, and you can be wildly successful. So, Matt, I really do believe that. I've heard your accent, and your accent to my ear is fine. There are plenty of people in the United States, for example, Deepak Chopra, a lot more successful than I am, and he has an Indian accent. Ariana Huffington of Huffington Post has a strong Greek accent, been very successful. Arnold Schwarzenegger has a strong Austrian accent. He actually became a movie star in the United States and governor of the largest state, even though he has a very strong non-standard American accent. So it's possible to change your accent. It's a tremendous amount of work. And you can work with accent reduction specialists, speech therapists. There are now apps. I have some family members now using apps to help with accent reduction. And I don't mean to dissuade you from that, but it can be long and tedious, time consuming. I look at it from a standpoint of if I've got time to invest in improving my communication skills, where's the biggest bang for the buck? And to me, it's, you know what? Let me make a short on this. Should you spend time trying to reduce your foreign accent? Well, I look at this in terms of how do you get the biggest bang for your buck? If you have a certain amount of time to improve your communication skills, I actually don't recommend you focus on your accent. Instead, focus on rehearsing your presentation, making sure you have interesting ideas, interesting stories, examples. That way, you'll really communicate and your audiences will love you and won't care about your accent. It's easier, faster, and less expensive than months and months or years of accent reduction. So that, I think, does really summarize my main point. Okay. So Matt says, I'm a student. How can I start earning money by only learning communication skills? Well, let me be clear. I think communication is very important, and I've devoted the bulk of my professional life helping people with their communication skills. And I've read thousands of communication skills books, articles, video, but I don't want you focusing exclusively on communication. Communication is just a tool to help you communicate a specific idea about some other field, typically, and how to help people, how to help yourself, how to change the world, create a better product or service. So I don't want you necessarily to focus exclusively on communication. Communication is what is going to make you wildly successful in almost any field. The most successful attorneys in the world are great communicators. The most successful CEOs of the world are great communicators. The most successful entrepreneurs and startup founders had to learn how to be great at communication, at least in some realm or environment. It is true, Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, when he was young, are not what you would think of as charismatic communicators, but get them in a room with a small group of investors early in their career where they can show their product. They were quite passionate and very successful at motivating people to do what they wanted. So that's so I want you to continue learning everything. I mean, I do know some people who consider themselves, big students of communication, and they'll come to me sometimes, say, TJ, I want to be a media trainer. Okay, and we do a media training together. Maybe they follow me around or they're a part of it. And when it comes time to ask the client questions the way a reporter would on CNBC, it's obvious to me they don't know anything about that industry. So a part of what I think it takes to be a good communications consultant, for example, if you want to be a media trainer, is you have to know an awful lot about almost every single industry, because I have clients in energy and technology and finance and professional sports. And I'm certainly not an expert on professional sports, but I have to know enough about the issues affecting them to be able to ask intelligent questions the way a reporter would. So that requires me to be up on all major news trends. Now, I don't spend 8 hours a day consuming news. Otherwise, I wouldn't have time for anything else. But I do certainly spend at least an hour a day consuming high quality news from major reputable news sources from a variety of sources, variety of niches and subject matters, and across the ideological spectrum. So that allows me to be a better communicator. To really be great at communication, I do think that you have to have a passion for learning new ideas and spreading new ideas. And so I hope that was helpful, Madhav. And maybe what you're asking, and I'll let you ask a clarification question. What's the best way of earning money if you have a primary passion of communication, and you want to make money using your skill. Maybe that's what you meant. If you want to clarify, do that. I'll try to do a recording on that issue. Everyone talks about communication being important, but come on. Your parents want you to be an engineer, a doctor, a software programmer, right? That's where the money is, right? Well, communication can be rocket fuel for any of those careers. If you're a great engineer and you can communicate your ideas, your inventions to others, you'll be much more successful. If you're an attorney and you can persuade a jury, you'll be more successful. If you have the world's greatest app and you're pitching venture capitalists, being a great communicator can make the difference in getting the check and going broke. Okay. What's the difference between communication skill and negotiation skill? Okay. Let's talk about that. What's the difference between communication and negotiation? They're two very important things. There's overlap, but they're not exactly the same thing. Communication is a broader thing where you have an idea and you're trying to convey that idea to someone else, whether it's one person or 10,000, and you want them to understand your idea, remember it, possibly act on it, and you want to get ideas from them. It's a two-way street. Negotiation is a very specific subset of that. That's when each party is trying to get something, some specific outcome, and you have to communicate with each other verbally, non-verbally, sometimes written proposals to get to the point where each side is happy. So you do need strong communication skills to be a great negotiator. I'm not sure I'm 100% happy with that. Negotiation is something I am fascinated by, and I've read a handful of books in just the last year. I've thought about doing a course on it, but I am not a world-class expert on negotiation the way I do consider myself a world-class expert on communication skills. So there are so many aspects of negotiation, the psychology, that I know enough about it where I could talk to you for 2 hours about it. I have not immersed myself in the arts of training negotiation to get to the point where I could talk at any length of time to really focus on what's most important. I mean, part of my value as a communications consultant is if someone says, all right, tell me what I need to know about public speaking in 30 seconds, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, or 30 hours, I could do that easily without really having to think or any preparation, because it's this accordion. I know exactly the priority list and the examples and how I would do that. When it comes to negotiation, I have thousands of ideas and insights in my head that I've gleaned from other experts, but I haven't systematically packaged every single thing in priority lists so I can do it for 30 seconds or 8 minutes or 30 minutes. There is a often cited quotation of, everything in life is a negotiation. I do think that's true at some level. Communication sometimes is also about no one wants anything. It's just two human beings trying to connect, maybe share some empathy, listen to each other's problems. There's no particular outcome. Maybe it's just about having fun. No one's trying to get anything. Typically in a negotiation, there is something parties want. Now, you could be with 3 friends and you're negotiating over what restaurant to go. It doesn't have to be about an international peace treaty. You could be negotiating about what movie we all go to. two of you want an action movie and one wants a comedy and one wants something else, and you decide to vote, or you ask people which do you object to the least. There's different types of negotiation, but that's what I see is negotiation is certainly related to communication. All good negotiators have to have strong communication skills, but it is with a tighter focus of trying to make people happy about something they're all going to agree to do. And perhaps that's it. It's about coming to some agreement. A negotiation, whether it's a divorce or a lease or anything, it's about an agreement about what two or more parties are going to do. A lot of communication isn't about necessarily doing anything. It can just be commiserating. It can be sharing an experience of how your weekend was. So it's a bigger, broader thing in that regard. Okay, those of you just joining me today, and I see we've had a number of additional people join me. This is a workshop where I am not talking about how to make YouTube videos and short form videos. I'm actually making them. And I'm walking you through how I shift to different camera angles and use my mixer. And I'm just going through a list of questions that have either been sent to me or I've thought about or are in an email queue. And some of the questions are ones that people have just sent to me right now in the comments section. So if you have a question that you'd like me to address, feel free to post it. Especially if you have a question that you think might be of interest to other people in an on-demand video in a short form. Although I could do long forms as well. I'm trying to get as many short forms videos done as possible. And Mattis says, thanks a lot. You're more than welcome, Mattis, and appreciate your active participation in this community. Okay, let me switch back to my list, and I will try to monitor your other questions and concerns as they come up. Okay. Here's one I love. You've heard this before. You should embrace your nervousness before speaking or presenting. It's a part of your humanity. You can make it work for you, right? This is horrible advice. If you are nervous before giving a speech or presentation, what that really means is you didn't rehearse on video. You're not certain you're going to be interesting. You think there's a chance you might bore your audience. Well, guess what? You might if you didn't prepare the right way. Actually rehearse, get real feedback. Make sure you've got great examples and stories. Then you have good reason to be nervous. So don't embrace your nervousness. Instead, go in to every presentation with confidence you're going to be great. Nervousness should not be a part of it. Okay, there's a little bit of controversy with that. Some people don't like my message. They think I'm being mean or tough, or I'm not being empathetic. I don't want to come across that way, but it is something that I do feel strongly about. If I said to you, well, I'm really nervous that this email I'm going to send you is not going to make any sense and the grammar is going to be bad and the spelling is going to be bad, are you going to say, oh, well, TJ, embrace your nervousness. I'm sure it'll be okay. Or would you say, well, TJ, why don't you run it through spell check and edit it and maybe have another set of eyes look at it. And when another one or two people look at it and say, this makes sense, you can hit send and you're not going to be nervous. I think that's what you'd probably tell me, right? Well, now you know how I feel when people say they're nervous about giving a speech or presentation, because from my point of view, there's no difference between eliminating your nerves before sending an email or cover letter versus giving a presentation. Each one has a procedure for getting rid of mistakes, getting rid of errors, getting rid of things that are going to make you look bad. The only difference is most people don't want to record on video. And I get it, I understand it, but if I told you I don't want to look at my spelling errors, so I'm not ever going to approve an email that I send, and I'm okay with just sending things out with tons of spelling errors, I don't know that you would have much sympathy for me. I think it's like, TJ, you're being lazy. You'd probably be right. Okay, let's go on to additional questions that I can answer. Okay, so put a star next to that one. Okay. Okay, the facts. This is an important one. Camera 2, hit record. You got all your facts in alignment. All the data points are in their rows. You're ready for your presentation, right? No, you're not, because a speech, a presentation, is never just about the facts. People can get the facts on Wikipedia or on the internet somewhere. A speech, a presentation, is about why certain facts matter more than others. It's about why people should have certain emotions about certain facts, and it's about what should be people's attention. Let me do that part over. And it's about what is most important that people should take action on right now. If you don't have that in your presentation, and all you have are facts, you are wasting your time and the audience's. Okay, so I'm giving a note to myself there. When I make a mistake as I did there, I should really pause for another second or two. It makes it easier when the editors are going through to edit this out. So that was a mistake in my mistake. So I'm going to try to do a better job of pausing, rewinding in my own mind to the beginning of the sentence, the last good. I want to start at the end of the last good sentence. So if I tripped on the third or fourth word in a sentence, I want to just go back to the beginning of that sentence as I do it. Okay, so let's go to the next topic. And see what else is coming. Again, if you have a question that you want me to answer, particularly if it is something that can be done in under 60 seconds, please post your comment right here. I'm happy to take a look at it, and I'm happy to do the best I can. And I'll answer it for you now, but I'll also make it into a video, and it may be 3 or 4 weeks before it comes out. But then you will be helping people all over the globe who have similar concerns. Okay. Okay. Here's one important question you should ask yourself before every speech or presentation you ever deliver. If your audience could remember only one idea from what you talk about in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, what would you want that one idea to be? You can't say, well, it's this whole topic and 89 facts. If you can't think about it in your own mind of what that one idea is, you are not ready to give that speech. Focus on that before you go into all the other data. Okay. So that is a great clarifier for a lot of people, because we get so lost in all the data and all the facts, and we lose track of what's really important, because the reality is most audiences, most of the time, might not remember anything. So if you can get them to remember one thing, then you might be a lot better off than the vast majority of speakers. Okay. Okay. I train people how to communicate effectively for a living. Now, here's the thing that shocks people the most about my techniques. I work with you, you stand up, you speak, you present. I record it on video. We watch it together. You probably assume that. But then I ask you to tell me what you liked about how you're coming across. Then I tell you the good things you're doing. We don't even talk about what you don't like the first time. We isolate the strengths. We do it again and build those strengths. That's the most important technique for really helping someone become a better communicator. Now, again, I don't want to say, well, this is really true, implying anything else I'm saying is not true, but it is genuinely a little surprising to people because they come in saying, rip me apart, and I could. That's not how people get better at speaking, presenting, talking to the media. They learn by building on their strengths. We've had a number of new people join us, and 7X or Adam has joined us. Adam, great that you're here. This is a workshop where we are going through making short form videos here. So I am looking at topics. People have emailed them in advance. Some of you are presenting ideas to me right now, and just going through production flow. Different online creators have different systems for creating videos. Some people brainstorm on 1,000 ideas and narrow it down to just 3, and they storyboard it. They write the scripts, rewrite, storyboard it, all that. And they can be very successful. Other people do everything live. What I try, and some people just script it once and read from a teleprompter. There are many, many different ways. There's no one right or wrong way. My technique is that I speak extemporaneously, and that it's all of the stuff I say are things I've thought about, I have said out loud before, and I have a combination of academic understanding in the sense that I've read a bunch of books and read other experts and watched videos from experts, but I've also done it in the field, face to face, working with real people, whether they are 11-year-olds or whether they are 80-year-olds, whether they are young, struggling students or wildly successful billionaires about to announce the acquisition of a new major league sports team. So that's what I'm pulling this from. It's not just me giving opinions because, like people do for sports, because they've watched sports on TV. It is based on real world experience. So Adam, if you have any questions that you think would be interesting topics for YouTube Shorts, that's what I'm most interested in right now. And forgive me, I did not post the link to join me on live today because I'm trying to get more done. We are going to go back to that. Well, I say next week. Next week, I'm likely going to be only on one day on Thursday because next week is going to be an infrastructure week, housekeeping week here at Media Training Worldwide and the TJ Walker Success Channel, because I've got to just set up a whole bunch of infrastructure things. So we are probably not going to be live much next week. The regular schedule, what I'm hoping to do is to come to you 9 a.m. to noon, most Monday through Fridays, Eastern time in the United States when I'm not traveling or in private trainings or giving speeches. And okay, Adam says he's looking for some communication. Send me an email in that, CC me and Ben, and I will follow up with him. So apologies if we dropped the ball on any of that communication. So send that as an email to me. That would be great. Okay, next question. Let's go to. Okay. How do I train people? One way of do you feel really good about your speech? Do you enjoy delivering it? Is this a speech you would have liked to have heard yourself? Okay. How do you know when you've given a really good speech? Well, you were there. Ask yourself as soon as it's over, did I enjoy that? Was that fun? Did I like the responses I was getting from people? Is this a speech I would have liked to have heard if I hadn't been giving it and I'd been in the audience? If you don't have the right answers to those questions, then you know it wasn't really a good speech. Giving a speech should, in fact, be fun for you, unless it's something like you're firing people or shutting down offices. Giving a presentation should be rewarding to you. If you don't feel good afterwards, it typically means you didn't prepare the right way. Okay. I do really, really believe that one. And so many people go into speeches and they act like, oh, I've got to do this tedious thing. This is like getting my teeth pulled or getting root canal, and but we're going to just soldier through it. Well, if it's tedious for you, guess who else it's tedious for? Your audience. So please give a thought to that. Now, I'm making one of the mistakes I don't want to continue making, but there's sort of my agenda of what I think is really important for communication. But I have to think about you. And I do know, based on the research, based on the data, that so many of you are keenly interested in body language tips, tips for how to use your voice more effectively, and insights on the most common mistakes people make and how to avoid those. So I've got to do a better job of really trying to hit those three things, even though, frankly, I don't think those are the most important things for someone who's trying to become a great communicator. It's got to be a balancing. All communication is balancing between what different people who are trying to communicate, audience, speaker, peers, colleagues, are trying to do, what their goals are. So I've got to practice that as well. Okay. If you're joining us just now, hi, I'm TJ. This is the TJ Walker Success Channel. This channel is all about helping you become more successful in life by being a better communicator and a more confident communicator. Today, we are taking you behind the scenes, and I am making content for short form videos. These are videos that would be shown on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, and a short form video is just really any video less than 60 seconds these days. That's what we're doing. And I'm hoping to motivate you to make some of your own. I'm hoping you're seeing, oh, this guy TJ, he kind of screws up. He sometimes stumbles. He just does it again. Doesn't look that hard. Maybe I'll do it. You know what? Let me just make a video on that. What do I want you to take away from me making these videos? It's not that, oh, TJ is so articulate and wonderful. No, I make mistakes all the time. What I'm hoping you take away is, if that guy can do it, so can I. Don't just sit here and watch me. Instead, make a decision today. You're going to communicate your expertise with the world. Doesn't matter if it's once a month, once a week, or once a day. Create a video recording your insights and share it with the world. Please don't leave me up here all alone. Okay. So even then, I make a mistake. Sometimes I'll leave a mistake in thinking, oh, I can reference the mistake and make it a learning moment. I didn't think at that point I really wanted to, so I didn't. I'm not quite sure if that one will work or not. Sometimes, like the Mr. Beasts of the world will spend months, a massive amount of money creating a video, review it, and say, it's just not up to our standards. We're not putting it out. I'm still in the vein of, let's err on the side of putting more ideas out. And I am more of a subscriber to the Gary Vaynerchuk school of thought, which says, get as much content out as possible, share your process, Not everything has to be polished. It's actually better to show people things where there's mistakes and lack of polish, because the vast majority of your content is never seen by most people, even by most of your subscribers. It's just there's so much going on in the world. Everyone has 10 billion options for what they can look at and listen to in any one day. So he's a big fan of putting out more, hundreds of pieces of content a day in many cases. So I'm not doing that much, but I am, to my knowledge, putting out more content than about communication skills than anyone else in the world, because I am hoping to reach more people and help more people. So if you have a question you want me to address, you can just post it in the comments section. I will see it if, well, I see it if it's on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram. I'm not quite sure I will see it if you're on other platforms necessarily. Apologies if I do miss that. By the way, something else I'll be doing before the end of our time today is not talking about the Amazon influencer program, but I'll actually be making Amazon influencer review videos. I've been doing this now for a couple of months, and so many people have asked me, TJ, how can I use my passion for speaking to figure out a way of getting in front of more people and making more money? And Amazon influencer is one way. It's a relatively new thing. It's been around a few years. I only really become aware of it in the last couple of months. And there are some things that are unique about it. We'll be talking about that later in our third hour today. Okay. Continuing down the list of questions I've just created, topics some people have emailed, some I've just come up with. And I'm marking off ones that I've done. Okay, I did that. And some people have an elaborate database and spreadsheets, and also, they may storyboard their videos out. I tend to do things in the simplest way possible. I'm doing the vast majority of these videos in one take, typically without a blunder, although you've seen me make some blunders today. I've just made a note in a quick email, and I send it to myself, and then I put it in a folder, and it's labeled YouTube topic ideas. And then after I've done it, I put a star next to it. Okay. All right. This is a somewhat interesting topic. And I thought I just got out of the live stream, so I'm glad I didn't do that. Okay. Record. What's one great way of eliminating the most common mistakes as a speaker? Well, do this. Watch YouTube videos for 1 minute a day of someone speaking. Keep an active list of things you don't like, and then make a promise to yourself not to do them. If you don't like people starting off their presentation with saying, "Good morning, I'm happy to be here," then don't do it. If you don't like people starting off apologizing, "Oh, I didn't have enough time," then don't start off by apologizing. If you don't like people speaking too quickly because you can tell they're nervous, then make a note to not speak too quickly. Use your eyes, use your ears, figure out what you don't like, and really make a list that you follow. So I'm trying to follow what I referenced earlier of being more responsive to what people want. I'm less enthusiastic about that because I do think people learn more by focusing on the positive rather than the negatives. In fact, let me do another one. Yeah, note to edit. Let me do this. Note to editor and note to Ben. Do not run the video I'm about to do with the one I just did back to back, because it will confuse people, because even though it's not contradictory, it's going to seem contradictory. Okay. Right, so recording. What's the best way to avoid the most common mistakes that speakers and presenters make every day? Well, it's to do this. Watch as many great speakers as you can. TED Talks, YouTube stars, people in your industry you admire and respect. Really study what you like about them. Now, don't just copy them, but borrow. Get inspired by what they're doing. If you focus on doing a great job long enough, the common mistakes fade away. Okay, I really do think that is far and away the better one. I can tell you right now, that one isn't going to get as many views. It's not going to go as viral. It's good advice. It's not sexy, clever, clickbait advice. But that's part of the advantage of what I'm trying to do here by creating 90 more than 100 pieces of content a month. I feel like I've got the freedom to just give people what I think is the best advice. There are some communication skills related channels, and they're only doing 3 videos a month. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but the stakes are really high for each one. Every second has another clip of Ryan Gosling or some good-looking celebrity, and it's really quick and fast-paced and energetic and comedic and fun and zipping along and lighthearted. And there may be some good advice, but the stakes are really high. They just cannot, if you're only doing 2-3 videos a month, put out something that they think this is really important to me, but it's not going to have a widespread audience because they're hoping to get millions for each video. What I'm trying to do here is a little different in that I am trying to be really comprehensive and have content that sure could go viral and reach a lot of people, but also have content that only people who really, really care and want to go in great depth will want to watch and look at and share. And over time, they'll benefit more and everyone will benefit. I'll benefit too. So that is my strategy. And time will tell. But I also frankly enjoy that more and feel like I'm being more helpful to more people. Okay. We live in precarious cancel culture times, right? One slip of the lip and poof, your career's gone, right? The safe thing is to be bland when you speak and present in front of people, right? Well, actually, that is risky. If you are bland and boring, no one's going to remember you. No one's going to want to hire you. No one's going to want to invest in you. No one's going to want to endorse you. I'm not telling you to go out and be offensive needlessly, but when you speak, when you present, you have to present an idea to people that's interesting to them, that's compelling, that's memorable. Being bland is the worst thing you can do because then you don't have to be canceled. You're already forgotten. Now, I have to admit, I do like that one. I do think that it's an important message. It's useful to people. It hits on a number of buttons that I know people are concerned with, and it's one that I feel strongly about as well. And because the interesting thing is, you know what? Let me make a video on this. Everybody likes to think, well, of course I have common sense. Well, how about using it when it comes to your presentations and your speeches and your talks? People tell me all the time, oh, TJ, everybody in my industry is boring. Every meeting, every presentation, and my company is boring. I say, oh, okay, yeah. Tell me about your presentation. Well, I'm doing what I always do, and I got to go through these slides. And is that interesting? Oh, no, it's boring. Well, wait a minute. If it's boring to you, if you hate it when other people do boring bumps to you, wait a minute. If you hate it when other people are doing boring data dumps to you, why in the world are you doing it to them? If you know it doesn't work, if you know you tune out when people give boring presentations, going through slides and numbers and data points, if you know you then pick up your cell phone to ignore them, why are you doing the same thing? Use your common sense. Focus on being interesting to your audience and memorable. Don't just do the same thing you already know doesn't work. Okay. I'm not sure that was tight enough, but we'll have to see. I mean, some of these we may just have to see how it looks after post production. And typically we run all of them unless for some reason it just really doesn't make sense. Let's see if we can find the next question. Again, if you have questions, and I think I can answer it, and I'm focusing on short form content today, I will put yours ahead of the list. Okay. I'm going through other email. Again, this isn't the fanciest, slickest. I didn't spend 3 hours preparing for our time today because I wanted you to actually see my process, be doing it in real time. So I'm looking through email. Most of these are questions that I want to answer in video format, but some of them are just notes about things I want. So I'm looking at one, and the topic is, sometimes I dictate these. And when you dictate, sometimes it's better than writing, fewer spelling errors, but sometimes the dictation turns it into something else, and it can be a little bit confusing. Okay. All right. Why is communication more important than ever today? Because we live in a world where big corporations are laying people off, firing them. There's no real stability. If you want stability, you need to have your own business quite often. That means you have to be your own brand ambassador. You have to be the one pitching new business, pitching clients, pitching your services, your products. And that means you've got to become not just a good communicator, but a great one if you want a long-term, stable, successful career. Okay, I do think that that's a very important concept and a reason why communication is more important than ever, because certainly there was a time when a lot of major corporations, whether it was the United States, Germany, Japan, were huge, and you can have lifetime employment. And you could go in at the beginning or junior level executive, or even on the plant, work your way up from the floor, get to middle management, never really speak to anyone more than one-on-one. Maybe you would have to talk in a staff meeting to 5 people, but you could work that way your whole life and never really have to go out and pitch your services, pitch yourself to a client. You might not even have to have another job interview your whole life. So it was possible to have, at least in the United States and Japan, a middle-class lifestyle, upper middle class in some cases, and never really communicate and not be a particularly good communicator. I won't say it's impossible to do that anymore. I think it is much more difficult. People have much greater churn in their careers. You could work for a really big company for 10 years, but then you may want to be a consultant or have to be a consultant or a trainer or a speaker the last 10 years or 15 years of your career, in which case you got to be pitching yourself every day on Zoom, face-to-face, networking meetings. You got to be comfortable and good at communicating if you're going to be successful. Okay. That reminds me of another issue that I'd like to talk about in a short format. Stop worrying about being a comfortable speaker, getting comfortable as a speaker. I can be comfortable right now in bed in my pajamas. Do you want to see it? I don't think so. Instead, focus on being a great communicator. Focus on making ideas come alive for your audience, whether it's one person or 1,000, making your ideas memorable and useful to them. If you do that and you know you do it, you actually will become really comfortable. That is, to me, an extremely important point because so many people come to me looking for training and they say, well, my goal is to be a more comfortable speaker. I say, why? You can be comfortable and be awful. What is it? And your audience doesn't care if you're comfortable. Your audience cares if you're interesting and useful to them. Let me do another one on that because I know I've said similar things before, but it is a slightly different nuance. Get note to editor and to Ben. Don't run these next two or the previous one and this one back to back because they might seem contradictory even though they aren't. People come to me all the time and say, TJ, I want to be more comfortable as a speaker. And I say, well, why? Well, no, why? Think about it for a minute. You're being selfish. Here's one thing I know about your audience. They don't care if you're comfortable. What they care about is, are you going to waste their time? Are you interesting to them? Are you going to give them some useful ideas? Focus on that. They'll love you and you will be a lot more relaxed and indeed comfortable knowing you've helped them. To just focus on your own comfort, even though you might be boring people, is a little bit selfish, right? So what I don't know there is, and I'd love to get feedback from Adam and Madhav and anyone else who's with us. Do I seem too mean or harsh there? Because I'm not trying to be mean, but I do think that there is something to this idea of it is selfish if you're worried about me, am I comfortable and am I comfortable? Because you can be really comfortable and be awful. And I see that all the time when people read a speech. In fact, let me do one on reading a speech. Today, I'm going to teach you tips on how to come across very comfortable and professional when you're speaking to people. And time out. What's wrong with that? I'm reading. Anytime you're reading a speech, you got to ask yourself, why am I doing this? Quite often it's because you think, oh, I'll be more comfortable. I won't make a mistake. I won't have to practice. I won't have to memorize anything. Guess what? You're being selfish. Your audience doesn't care about that. They care about if you're interesting and useful. And if your eyes are not looking at them, especially if you're reading in a monotone, quick way, you're not going to be interesting. So ask yourself, do you really need to read this speech? Oh, but I might mess up one word. Well, why do you think anyone's even paying attention word for word if you're delivering it in such a boring way? Your first job is to make ideas interesting, understandable, and memorable to your audience. Simply reading a prepared speech that puts everyone to sleep will never accomplish that. Okay. So that one I did from that angle because it seemed to make more sense like I'm reading. So that's why I did that, if you are wondering. Okay. Let me see if there's other topics that I have missed that are in my queue list. Some weeks I get a whole lot coming in from students and just people online, and I can miss some of them, and I feel bad about that. Other times, I have others that I've come up with and get missed out on. I think I covered a whole lot of them yesterday that came in. Here's one I think I did miss from a month ago. I did miss this one. So this is from one of my students. It says, can I ask how you can raise an investment for a video game idea you cannot make a prototype for, especially if it demands money up front? I only managed to create a game design document and a wireframe document after paying an experienced team based in India. I failed to then raise the required capital needed after developing the actual product. Referencing from the documents we initially made. Has affected my relationship with the team. How could I solve this situation? Clearly, a prototype in this instance requires an experienced team to then help with the pitch I could deliver to a potential investor. Okay, so they're essentially asking how do you pitch people for money if you can't show a prototype? The most common way of pitching investors these days for money is to say, look, I've already made this app. We've already tested it. We already have 5,000 users. They're already giving us great reviews. I need $20 million for marketing and expansion so we can scale it out. That is what investors typically like to hear, but it just doesn't work for everything. Because if you do have something that requires tremendous infrastructure, if you want to start a brand new car company, for example, it's very hard to just make 50 cars and get it out and start getting feedback. So it is a great question. So let me do that. I'm going to do that one from camera one for a little variety. The most common way to raise investment funds these days is to create a prototype, an app, a website, get it out there, get a few thousand really excited customers, get some revenue coming in, and then go to investors and say, see, look at this great thing I've already created. Give me millions of dollars, and all we have to do is scale this out, and it will become worth billions. That is the most common model. But what if you're trying to create a product that requires a lot of upfront capital? Not everything is as simple as an app. What if you do need to create a building? What if you're creating an airplane, a satellite? There are some things that are very capital intensive. What you then have to do is sell you. You have to convince them you are a winner. You and your team are winners because of other successes that are relevant, might not be the same thing. They need to see that you have a successful track record and that you're committed to this and passionate for this. If you do that, you can raise money. Okay. Now, I don't want to make it sound like it's simple. You could have all of those things and it'd just be a very difficult funding environment. There are changes in the macroeconomic scene that can affect funding. I do feel bad that I put that in a different folder, and I don't think I responded to that student. I sincerely apologize to that student because I don't think I got back to him in a timely enough way. So apologies. We do often have hundreds of specific questions coming in each and every week, which I'm happy about that. But occasionally mistakes are made. But one question I won't lose is yours if you're watching this live right now. If you post a question, we do have time. And I'm actively looking for ideas. I have a number of folders I have where people have emailed me questions to ask. I have a whole different set of suggestions courtesy of ChatGPT, which I've been going through lately. But I always give a priority to any actual human being who's willing to be a part of communication with me and just talk with me right now. So Seven, Madhav, Barb for that matter, and Michael. We have a number of people who've joined us live today. If you're watching this on demand first or later, thank you. Also, keep in mind if you want something a little more focused, a little more polished, a little more concise, please look at the videos, the video tab where you see produced videos that were not live. If you're watching this, it means you've somehow stumbled across our live feed and the live tab, which a lot of people get value out of. But the produced videos, the short form and the long form, are more concise, and we've weeded out some of the time consuming stuff and the connection stuff. So I'm hoping that you will give those a try and enjoy those as well. All right, so I'm going to look at other questions that have come in and other topics that have just grabbed my attention. Let's see, we've got topic, news topics. Sometimes I look at news stories. They tend not to be as evergreen. So I will talk about news stories from time to time, especially trends that relate to media and advertising that I think affect so many people these days. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, excuse me, I have to go off camera just a second. I am going to get some of the questions prepared by ChatGPT. Now, the other thing I'm going to do, so again, as I told you, this is a working session. You're going to see what people really do behind the scenes. So I feel myself getting a little bit warm. I'm going to take a tissue, wipe my forehead off, and reapply some powder. Because when these videos are later produced, I don't want to be shiny. Now, I'm not trying to put on makeup to make myself beautiful. What I am trying to do is just to minimize distractions, look professional. I'm not saying every YouTuber puts on makeup, but certainly any TV star, news anchor, sports commentator you see has makeup on. In the same way they have clothes on. It's just kind of standard to eliminate distractions and look as professional as possible. So I'll just show you. You can see what I had on. Let me cover my face so we don't lose the focus. So you can see there's color there. But I'm not all pale now compared to before. I'm putting on powder that is roughly the same color as my skin. All I'm trying to do is to minimize shine and not look sweaty or oily or anything like that. So I'm going to now, I take a brush. I have a mosaic powder, and I'm just going to sort of lightly put it on my forehead and nose. I think I already have enough elsewhere, but I'm just swirling it around. I don't want any one color. So you can see that is a mosaic powder. It's actually called mosaic because it's a variety of colors, because I don't want to make my face all, one color. And I don't want this to be too dark. So I'm just doing a little bit of a light thing. Now, am I the world's greatest makeup expert? No. If any of you are internet or makeup experts, you might be appalled at one of my techniques. I'm doing the best I can, given that this is a relatively simple operation. This is not a network operation. I'm not coming down the hall from the makeup room. Now, I've spent a lot of time in the makeup room chair at CNN and MSNBC and Fox and Bloomberg. So I'm not opposed to that, but those are big, giant, multi-billion-dollar corporations that have makeup teams. And these days, most people doing YouTube stuff, even really successful YouTubers, you are your own YouTube person. And let's see, Michael says the stream lacked continuity. It often stopped. If anyone else is noticing it stopping, let me know, because sometimes it could be my internet connection could be causing problems, number one. Number two, it could be because I have one extra tab open. I have my Gmail open. That could be causing problems. It could be the internet on your side, the Wi-Fi you're using is having problems. And it could be because I am streaming out to 5, 6 different places that's causing problems. Barb just says the stream is running beautifully. So Barb, thank you very much for the feedback. That would make me think that the issue it may be on the Wi-Fi in your community right now, or in your office, or your home, wherever you are. So apologies for that, Michael. And Michael's joining us on LinkedIn. Very happy to have you. I've been on LinkedIn forever, but I've never really thought of it as a huge social media platform. But they are in the game like everyone else these days. They want video like everyone else. And I do see a lot of sharing and a lot of video consumption of this program and other content I do on LinkedIn. Probably the most surprising thing for me lately, and Barb, you and I have not had a chance to talk about this yet, but I've noticed on TikTok, there's been more attention to long form video being popular there. And I thought, well, that's interesting. I've seen a number of stories. I checked my own analytics and I was shocked, frankly, that my long videos 3, 4, 5, 8, 10, 12 minutes long, are getting 10 times more views on TikTok than they are on YouTube. That surprises me because most people think of TikTok as the kids who want something for 15 seconds, dancing and jiggling, and YouTube is where people go for the serious, lengthy, long form videos. And for whatever reason, my long form videos are performing just as well as my short form videos on TikTok right now. That did not used to be the case. So Barb says, yes, more product sales on TikTok as well. Now, I've not yet explored it. I think I've gotten an email from TikTok saying, oh, you're now eligible to be one of our influencers and sell. And they may do that for everyone. I don't really know. But there's so many options these days for being an influencer, for selling products, for making money, promoting products, whether it's affiliate ads, brand deals, that I can't keep up with all of them. I'm attempting to learn, but all the major platforms have their own ways of making money selling products. Certainly YouTube does, Facebook, TikTok does. The major online sales platforms do, store platforms. Amazon does, but so does Walmart. So does Target. So everybody's getting in on the game, in part because traditional ways of marketing and selling are crumbling. Just this week, Macy's announced they're closing not 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 stores, which they announced a couple weeks ago. They're closing 150 stores across the United States. And every single week, typically every single day, more newspapers go out of business. More major media companies are slashing payroll because the advertising dollars are not going to the major cable networks at anywhere near the rate they used to. So the money's not going there. The sales are not happening in the store at Macy's. They're happening right here online. And that means the money that used to go to the top executives at Time Warner, at least some of that money, can now go to you and me if we want to get into this influencer game. It does mean the money that went to some of the sales clerks at Macy's and other department stores can now go to you and me because you and I are doing the selling. The sales clerks, unfortunately, are having to go to other jobs or retrain or do other things. So that's the modern world we live in. Barb says, yeah, more consumers would rather shop from home as well. That's a trend I've experienced certainly in my own household. I mean, when my family and I go to a mall these days, it's frankly just kind of for fun or for a different experience, or to go to a restaurant there. And then, oh, we may stroll around to sort of get some exercise and have fun. Now, I'm not really proud of this, but when I go to a Barnes and Noble these days, I might look at the books. I don't buy my books there, and it's because Jeff Bezos is so clever. He realized that if we tell people who are about to buy a book, hey, you already have that book, we'll lose a sale today, but we'll gain tremendous loyalty. That's exactly what happened to me. Countless times, I'll hear about some new book on communication, some new book on habits, some new book on personal development. Wow, this sounds great. I read a review. I go to buy it on Amazon, and right at the top, it says, you bought this book October 6th, 6 months ago. And I realized, oh yeah, I read it, I bought it, I read it, I liked it. I don't need to buy it again. Barnes and Noble doesn't do that, at least in their store. So Barb, you're absolutely right. People want to shop from home. And part of the home experience or office is that electronic paper trail. And Amazon, to their credit, did that, not out of the goodness of the heart. I think they realized it was just a great business decision because it creates loyalty. I am afraid to buy a book from Amazon.com, from Barnes and Noble, because I'm afraid I already bought it. Even if I didn't buy it, I'm afraid to buy it from there because I might buy it, read it, like it, see a review of it someplace 6 months later, go to Amazon, want it quickly, and now it doesn't show up that I purchased it, and I buy it again, and now I've got two of the exact same books, and I feel like an idiot. I've done that before. So that's just amplifying the point you made correctly, Barb, which is people do prefer shopping, whether you call it at home, at office, or just online, because there's so many efficiencies that a store can't do. And this is why, especially here in Florida, you're seeing entire malls go from selling products to selling services. You've heard me talk about pickleball, and I do love pickleball, and I will be playing late this afternoon with my wife and friends. There are a number of malls across the country that are getting rid of the traditional stores, and they're putting in pickleball courts because it's great to play inside. It's a great use of space. And you can't play a game of pickleball sitting at home clicking on Amazon.com. It's an experience. I do think that is the future for malls, especially, and a lot of physical stores. People want experiences. I've seen in other malls here in Florida where they have the Build-A-Bear, where I can go with my kid, we can actually build a bear. And I've seen more arcades in malls. So I do think that is, in fact, the trend. Now, Barb has mentioned consumers have awakened to the savings and safety of buying from trusted online sources compared to what they experience where they live. Now, I mean no disrespect to reputable stores who've been in the community, served the community, helped the community for 50, 100 years, whether they are in the paper products or hardware. I have a lot of sympathy for stores like that. It is hard to compete in the modern times. You mentioned trust. There is a lot of trust with Amazon. There's a million bad things you could say about Amazon, and you wouldn't be wrong. But Amazon is really trustworthy. If you send a product back, you get a refund, and it's quick. You order a product, you get it quickly. That's trust. I mean, Barb, you and I are old enough to remember the days when you saw a direct marketer peddling something on a TV infomercial or a 60-second direct response ad. The quickly voice at the end is, please allow 6 to 8 weeks delivery time. I mean, if you asked most people under 30 today, would you buy anything with the idea that it had to be 6 to 8 weeks delivery? I think they wouldn't be able to stop laughing at you. If you have any questions you want me to answer in a short form video right now, please let me know. You can post it. Otherwise, I'm going to go to some other content questions that were suggested to me using artificial intelligence. Amazon, all major companies, Microsoft, they're big into artificial intelligence. I don't want to be left out of the party. So I'm trying to use it to create what I do at a higher level and make it better as well. So I'm going to share with you some questions that were generated by ChatGPT. So I'm looking over these. What are the best strategies for giving constructive feedback without causing offense? That one is better off, I think, as a long form. And I'm not sure I really want to do that as a short form. How can I develop my storytelling skills to enhance my presentations? Okay, that is one that works well. And, I'm going to start just putting S or long so I know which one I've done as a short and which one is a long. So that one does lend itself to that. So let me switch to camera 2. I'm going to get this out of the scene. So what's the easiest way to develop your storytelling skills? Well, here it is. Steal. That's right, plagiarize. But careful now, I want you to plagiarize yourself. When a colleague, a friend, an associate asks you a simple question about what you do, something you're working on, you're likely to answer in a question. Let me cut. I know if it's Friday, it seems like I'm making more mistakes than usual. Guess what? That's okay. It's only taking a few seconds. Let me do that one over. What's the best way to really build your storytelling skills so you become a better presenter? Well, here it is. It's steal and plagiarize from yourself. I want you to steal your own best stories. Chances are you could be walking down the hall at work or talking to a colleague. They ask you a question, and without even thinking about it, you tell a story about what happened to a client, a colleague, an issue you actually work on. You talk about where it was, the problem, what people said, and how it was resolved. Well, guess what? That's a story. When you see your colleague look at you and say, "Oh, thanks, now I get it," that's instant feedback that tells you that's a great story. Use that story in your next presentation. So that really is, I think, a very powerful tip. So many people want to stay up late at night writing stories and being creative. A lot of the best communicators are not particularly creative. They're just constantly keeping their antenna up for stories they've told in real life to someone in response to a question, and they saw that it resonated. Talking about the previous issue, Barb points out more geo-based retail centers are looking into converting into product pickup destinations. Amazon already has a head start on that as well. I've certainly heard of that, and it would seem to make a lot of sense from a waste perspective and environmental perspective. One of the things I do worry about is how much worse am I making the world with all the landfill of products and packages? So here's a perfect example. I have to show this to you. So I have not one, but 2 of these pads that I stand on because I am standing for 3 hours a day. And these are the same things that people have in their kitchen. And it just takes a lot of pressure off the feet, makes things less tiring. So this is a pad. It probably weighs, I don't know, 3 pounds. It came in a box that was easily 5 feet tall and 10 inches thick, filled with paper. I mean, it was just massive, the amount of packaging and waste. And I realized they didn't want it to get broken for me and be unusable, but maybe that is the sort of thing, if I picked it up at a mall, would be great. One of the one of the things Amazon's so good at is preying upon people's weaknesses. Everyone has weaknesses. I have weaknesses. And one of our weaknesses as humans is we're lazy. It's so much easier to go boop than it is to think, oh, do I have gas in the car? Get in the car, navigate, drive to a store, find a parking space, get out. Oh, it's raining. Let me get my umbrella. All the steps you have to do to go to a store. And Amazon and other online retailers have figured out, the easier and easier and easier we make it for people to buy from us, the harder it's going to be for them to ever get into a car or walk to a store to get stuff. And there's certainly some downsides to that in terms of what it does to some communities and economies and the environment. I don't have all the answers. I'm as guilty as the next person of taking the easy way out. But I also think a lot of traditional retailers took the easy way out too. They could have invested very heavily in building relationships with their existing customers 30 years ago. And they said, you know what? Let's just keep doing what we do. Our customers love us. They'll always be with us. This internet thing is a fad. We don't want to take the time to learn it. And they got destroyed. I mean, I walked by on my main street, just a couple blocks from where I am now. There was a stationery store, gigantic store in downtown Delray Beach. I think it had been there for 50 years. And when I first moved to town, they were still open, although their hours seemed very irregular. And then I started noticing signs they put up. Don't shop at Walmart. They're really bad. They're bad. Or not, no, don't shop at Amazon. They're really bad. I said, you know what? Let me give them a try. I went there for something I thought they would have. It's just simple bad. Oh, we don't have that. I went another time during the workday. They were closed. And sure enough, they went out of business, and it's now a sunglass store and a clothing store in that space. So again, I can have sympathy for that, but I know so many people in any industry, you have one thing that works, you don't want to invest in the newest technology because the profit margins are so much smaller initially. But then when it scales up, next thing you know it, you're out of business. That's certainly been the case for bookstores virtually everywhere these days. Barb also points out the pilferage has gotten so bad in geo-based stores, it's forcing many to close. Yeah, I mean, there are risks. It's pretty hard to steal a sweater from Amazon. There's no doubt about that. Although people, there can be abuse everywhere. I mean, someone can be an Amazon influencer, buy a sweater, do a review, hoping to make money, fully intending to ship it back to Amazon to get a full refund. So there can be abuse in all sorts of places. So let's go to the next question I want to ask. By the way, if you're staying tuned, I am going to be doing Amazon influencer videos in the next hour before we end our session today. Let's see, how can I tailor my communication approach? I'm seeing a bunch of these questions, and a number of them I think are better off for long form videos. Otherwise, I would just go right into it. How can I effectively manage upward communication with senior management? Okay. What's the best way to communicate effectively with senior managers, the big bosses, the ones who make the big bucks? The human reaction is to be tense, be scared, be meek, maybe even be a little obsequious, maybe look downward. Don't do that. You want to ask your question, communicate you want, and treat them with respect, but treat them as you know. You want to treat them with respect, but you also want them to know you're confident in your ideas. You're comfortable. You are a real human being with dignity, and you want them to listen. Most of the time, they will respect that and listen to you. So I got into that. That one was a little harder to wrap up when I started thinking about it, because the tendency is, oh, I like to talk about this for 2-3 minutes, and I'm realizing I got to wrap this up in 30 seconds. So, and as you saw, I made a little blunder there. I think I've made more blunders and mistakes and redos today than really maybe any time in the last month. And you know what? It's okay. It's going to take a couple extra seconds of the editor's time. So I don't think it's really a problem at all. I do want you to realize you don't have to get your videos perfect, whether you're doing them extemporaneously as I am, whether you're using a script, a teleprompter. You can edit it. If it's an edited video, you can edit it out and no one will see your mistakes. What I'm doing here is a little bit different because I am showing you all my mistakes, but this is not something most people do. I'm not aware of any other communications expert or really anyone who is showing you behind the scenes in real time how they make videos on a regular basis. I'm sure some do some of the time. Okay. Techniques for improving communication in virtual or remote teams. Okay. This is one I have a lot of thoughts on, but I'll try to do it in a short format. Go to camera 2. What are a couple of ways that you can boost communication when you have remote or virtual teams? For starters, when you meet, ask people to turn on the camera. You want to see them. You want to see their facial expressions, but you also want them to know you can see what they're doing, because without the camera on, here's what everyone's doing. Everyone thinks they're a genius multitasker. And, oh, wow, look at this text I just got. So you want the cameras on, and you want everyone to know that they need to be ready when they're called upon. They should be able to call on you and ask you a question. You should be able to call on them at any moment. Everyone needs to know this is as important as a face-to-face meeting. So I do feel very strongly a lot of people make a mistake of, and I don't want to offend anyone here, but there can always be exceptions. There can be people who have serious health issues. There are people who can have other problems, but I do think that most of the time, if someone is a paid employee of a corporation and it's in normal business hours and you are working virtually, I do not think that it is an improper request for a manager or a coworker or a colleague to ask you to turn your camera on if it's a normal 9 to 5, whatever your normal business hours are, and you're being paid for your time. You don't have to dress up in a fancy suit and tie or fancy dress. But I do think if you're being paid for your time and your expertise and you're a professional and you're getting some sort of salary, and there's a meeting and they're not asking you to get in your car and drive to an office or fly to a meeting across the country, then asking people to turn their camera on should be considered fair and not an unjust imposition. If you're with friends or volunteers or something and people, then don't push them. But in a business setting, I do think it's important. And the reason being, it's just human nature. If you know that someone can't see you, it's just so much easier for the mind to wander. It's so much easier for you to think I can multitask and say, oh, did any interesting emails come in? And what's going on here? And you've lost your focus. Even if you are focusing intently, it's so much worse for the other person because they can't see your face. They can't see you looking a little confused. They therefore can't ask a follow-up question. They also, if they're saying something interesting and you're excited and nodding, they can't see that. So it really causes a breakdown of communication on both sides. So a little bit of an elaboration. Maybe I should be doing the longer form videos now as well. How can I use questions effectively to engage my audience during a presentation? That's going to be a great one for short form and long form as well. But I'm going to try to just do as many short form videos as possible today. Okay, how to use questions. I should start some from this angle. What's the best way to use questions to engage your audience during a presentation or talk? It's not just tossing out general high value. Wow, I'm really off today, I got to tell you. What's the best way to use questions to engage your audience during a presentation or a talk? It's not just asking abstract rhetorical questions. It's asking highly specific, real questions to specific people in the audience. Ask questions because you genuinely want to know. Don't ask general questions where it's obvious and it seems like you're just trying to manipulate people. Don't say, how many of you would like to make more money and lose 100 pounds while eating cake? Don't ask obvious questions. Instead, ask real questions, which means you don't know the answer. And then listen to them. If it's a meeting, a talk where there's not 10,000 people there and you don't have a tight time constraint, actually listen to them. Try to learn from them. The more any speech, presentation, briefing seems like a conversation, the more interesting it's going to be for everyone. Now, I didn't time that. What I'm hoping for that is that I did get it just under 60 seconds, or that my editors can reduce it to that, because it's not enough to be a long form video, but I do think that that would be a good short form video if I did that in under 60 seconds, less than 60 seconds. So now you may see that I'm drinking more water. I'm doing this a little bit differently. You're familiar with talk show hosts who have 3-hour broadcasts, but they have all sorts of commercials and things like that and ads. So they actually have plenty of time where they can sit down, have a drink off camera, run to the restroom. These first few weeks that we're doing this, we're kind of working out the kinks. So I haven't put in ad breaks yet. I haven't put in bumpers. I haven't put in other things. And today I'm not bringing guests and all of you on camera because I'm trying to get more done creating this short form content. But because of that, I'm talking nonstop, and that is drying out my throat. That's why you see me drinking even more water than usual. And in edited videos, all of that is edited out. Okay. One of the best ways to ensure clear communication during a crisis or high pressure situation. Again, these are questions generated by ChatGPT. So I'm giving them credit, and they're doing it based off of sampling the internet, looking at sentiment in social media, Google searches, things like that. What's the best way to communicate clearly during a crisis? Well, for starters, you have to speak. Don't hide behind press releases and statements. Actually speak. Now, you can make a video initially to lay out the facts, but then you need to be accountable. If it's a huge crisis, hold a press conference and don't go home until every single question is answered. So crisis communications is something I've done a lot of throughout my career, helping politicians in trouble, government officials, uh, plants and factories that manufacture hazardous materials where they have to be ready anytime there's an injury. So it's something I've done a lot of. I don't do as much of it in recent years, but it is something I've taught courses. I have online courses on crisis communication. So it's something I've spent a lot of time on. My early career was almost exclusively with politicians. And politicians, there's a crisis almost every day. Someone is attacking you for committing all sorts of atrocities in the political world. So almost all communication for politicians meets that threshold of being, similar to a crisis. Looking for more topics. How can I improve my ability to read and respond to the audience's reactions during a speech? Okay, I was thrown for a minute there. I thought the person was asking me how to read text more efficiently, and I'm thinking, well, that's a different part of communications, but they're actually talking about reading the body language. Now, this is one I definitely should do a long one on as well, because as I mentioned to you, my own research and the data of my channel shows people absolutely love any tips about body language. So let me do one on this right now. How can you improve your ability to read the audience's body language when you're giving a speech or presentation? Well, for starters, you have to be comfortable enough with your material that you're not actively thinking, oh, what am I going to say next? What's the next paragraph? Where am I going? You got to be focusing on your audience. That means you had to rehearse in advance to build a comfort level so that you actually can spend time looking at their faces. Are they looking confused? Are they looking excited, nodding their head? Are they doing this? Worst of all, are they ignoring you and looking at their phone? That is the worst possible body language because it means you've lost them. You got to somehow figure out how to be interesting enough to get them looking at you again. Okay. Now, there's always exceptions, and in a short form video, I can't do that. But someone could think something you said was so brilliant, they're writing it down to remember it, and they're tweeting it to 10 million people. Most of the time, that's not what's happening. When I go to business conferences and I see some speaker up there droning on, and nobody's sitting on the first 5 rows because they want to sit in the background because their assumption is the speaker's going to be boring. Their assumption is, I better make the best of a bad situation because if they're really boring, I can go to plan B. And everyone's got a plan B, which is check their cell phone, because this has every interesting, funny, entertaining idea ever in the history of the world, and it's all right here. How are you going to compete with that? Okay, let me do a short just on that, because sometimes I'll say something out loud and I think, you know what? Maybe there's something there, and that might be useful to other people. You've got to realize every single audience member you speak in front of has a plan B. If you're not interesting, they've got this. This little thing has every single interesting, entertaining, funny, useful idea in the history of the world. You got to compete with that, which means you don't have time to just go through the facts and do a boring data dump. You have to engage your audience to get them to put this thing down. Okay. Now, was that overly dramatic? Was it cheesy? I'll admit I was hamming it up a little bit. We'll see. Sometimes you do that and you think, doesn't come across that well. Other times, edited together, wow, that works. What I have noticed quite often is the videos you think will do really well and go viral don't. Ones you think, I'm not even sure if I should post this, could do really well. One of the most successful videos I ever did, I was simply getting a haircut. This was probably a dozen years ago. Getting a haircut, and I've got the thing around me. I'm in a barber shop. I just had a little cell phone pointed up at my head. Horrible lighting, horrible angle. And I said, you know what? I'm often asked, what's the best hairstyle if you're a man losing your hair? I think keep it really short. That way it's less distracting. Nobody feels like you're trying to fool them with a comb over or anything like that. And people can focus on your face or something else, not focus on your hair. Stop. Uploaded it, boom, 40,000 views. So it's not one I would have predicted. Wasn't scripted, wasn't planned. People had asked me that question before, but sometimes the simplest ones in reaction to something can be really valuable to people, and because it is an issue people face, and I know myself. So when you're thinking of content to create, do think about, are there certain questions people have asked you in the real world that interested them, they had curiosity about, you gave them some insight, and it worked. And for some reason, the pad I'm standing on, not the one I picked up, has moved. So I've now got to move this back to give my feet a little more cushion. Okay, let's get to the next question. We are in our final hour, so what I am going to do relatively shortly is start making Amazon influencer videos. For those of you interested in that, and it's just going to be simple. I'm using some very expensive cameras right now, but for those, I'm just going to be using a cell phone and a simple $20 added plug-in mic, which you don't even have to do that. Okay, what are some strategies for maintaining clear communication channels within a growing organization? That's more of a long form one. So I don't think I'll do that now. How do you show your coworkers the importance of communication in the workplace? Okay, that's one that I could do. Let me mix up the angles here. I'm going to keep this camera 1 or camera 3. How can you show your coworkers the importance of communication in the workplace? Well, it's simple. You have to practice what you preach. You have to do what you want them to do. So if you want people to pick up the phone and call you and get instant feedback, you need to do that. If you have coworkers in other cities, other places, you may want to consider making a quick daily briefing video, 2-3 minutes, and sending it out every day. You may want to have a set time where everyone gathers just for 5 minutes on WhatsApp and everyone can chat. You got to figure out what communication channels work best for you and your team. And then you've got to figure out some way of regularly doing it without it being some big tedious long email chain where everyone is CCing everyone on everything. Okay. There was some good tips there. I don't know that it had the tightness and the clarity that I really like for community. And in full disclosure, part of that is that's not an issue where my clients come to me as often. So I've certainly thought about that issue. I have given advice. I've read books, but it's not something I have been in the trenches in the way I have with so many of these other issues. So maybe that's why I didn't feel quite as good about the advice I gave there. Rate your communication skills from 1 to 10 with proper examples backing your given rating. That's not really a question. How would you describe your written communication skills? That's not one. Let me give you a little clarification. So what this channel's about and what I specialize in is spoken communication and the body language that accompanies spoken communication. That's what I focus on. So I do not train people on written communication. The reason for that is everyone has gotten 1,000 hours of education on writing. If you went to first grade, elementary school, grade school, high school, you got formal instruction on writing every single day. If you were in high school junior or a college senior or in graduate school and you turned in a paper and you had sentences that didn't end with periods or didn't start with capital letters, you had some teacher circling it and saying, hey, this is a mistake. You got feedback. So part of my assumption with my own business model is people have already gotten a tremendous amount of training on how to write. Most people have gotten no training, no formal training on how to speak. And that is the huge gap, because for most people, unless you are a full-time professional writer, and even then you can make exceptions, but most people, as they rise in their career, whether they are a CEO of a big company or a one-person consulting firm or speaker, public speaker, professional speaker, how much money they make and how much success they have is often a function of how well they speak and how often they speak. It's not about how much they write. CEOs have communication teams that can write memos and marketing brochures and even speeches. They can delegate the writing. They cannot delegate the speaking. So that's why my whole practice is devoted to helping people in this narrower communication niche of how to speak effectively and the body language that accompanies that, because it's a very specific niche and it's outside the traditional academic area of how students are taught, not only in the United States, but all across the world. Okay. Some of these questions that ChatGPT wrote are a little broader because it does get into written communication. Like, how do you handle conflict? I could talk about that, but that's not what I'm used to giving advice to in 30 seconds. How would you go about persuading someone to see things your way at work? I certainly could talk about that. Talk about a successful presentation you gave and why you think it did well. Okay. How would you explain a complicated technical problem to a colleague with less technical knowledge? Okay. We talked about this a little earlier this week, but let's go into it in more detail. I think I'll do another one from camera 3. And I'm actually going to try to look at the timing on this since I'm using camera 3. What's the best way of explaining a complicated technical issue to a colleague who has less technical knowledge than you? The main thing is to focus on one idea at a time, to give examples, to explain the significance. And then you need to look at them. Do they look confused? If so, it's not their problem. It's your problem. Try again. Are they nodding, saying that makes sense? Okay, that's a good sign. Go to the next point. Remember, it's not about you knowing it. You don't get credit for explaining it the right way. You get credit for your colleague understanding it. So don't rush. Focus on just the most important points, one point at a time, and then ask them questions along the way to see if you are explaining it in a clear way. Okay, so I think that was, if I looked at the time right, 50 seconds, clearly under 60 seconds. So we're okay there. So that one could work. Okay. So I'm putting an S for short. Do you prefer written or verbal communication? I don't like the question as it's written, but there is something there. Let me take a stab at that. Let me give some plugs here in a way that seems organic. me look at the time. What's better, written communication or spoken verbal communication? That is a false choice. There are pros and cons, strengths and weaknesses to both forms of communication. Written communication is a great way of communicating lots and lots of data. People can access it when they want to. If you want to know my thoughts on media training or public speaking training, I've written entire books. You can read them, underline them, come back to them. But written communication is not the most powerful way to connect with people emotionally, to create change. If you want to really connect, if you want to move someone to take action, you need to speak to them. Verbal communication is the most powerful way of connecting emotions to create change. Okay, I think that was under a minute. And that one I am happy with. I do think that was successful and was a very important point. And I think that would be a good show. I see some friends have just joined us. We have been working for now 2 hours and 14 minutes today. And I've been sort of taking you behind the scenes and doing a production session where I'm producing short form videos, specifically for YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, and other social media platforms. So rather than talk about how to produce, I'm just producing them right here, warts and all, showing you the mistakes, the blunders, the stammers, the repeats. You're hearing me give instructions to my editors of take that out or don't use this. And what I'm hoping for is it motivates you to do the same thing. One of the great powers of online video, people talk about, everyone wants video, and Facebook went to video, and TikTok came up, and the power. Everyone talks about all this power of video and how it's everywhere and everyone's doing it. Here's the secret, and the fact that few people talk about is most people in the world are still afraid to put their camera or their face on a camera and make a video. So part of the power of video is you've instantly eliminated 99% of the world or the vast majority of your competitors because people are scared or intimidated or don't want the attention or something's holding them back. So this really is one of the cases where just showing up is a huge part of success. Just creating a video instantly makes you stand out. Here I am talking. Let me just do a video on this. And you've heard people talk about the power of video. Video's everywhere. All the social media platforms want video, right? Everyone's doing video, right? Well, video is powerful, but one of the main reasons it's powerful is 99% of the world is still uncomfortable with it. They're afraid to do it. They're not doing it. Oh, I'll wait till I look better, get a better camera. So when you make a video talking about your expertise, your product, your company, you instantly stand out from 99% of the competition. Just showing up takes you to success with video. Okay, I'm not sure I like that last sentence. You could make the case it's slightly overstating. By success, I don't mean anyone who makes video is going to be Mr. Beast and have 10 billion views and millions of dollars floating in. I do think that for so many people in so many industries, if you're a graphic artist and your town of 80,000 people and you have 3 main competitors and none of them have a video on their website talking about their craft, their passion, what they like, what they're good at, and you do, I think it's going to help you get business. All things being equal, you got 3 competitors, there's 4 of you in the small town. You all have a website, you all have references, you all have credentials. Your website is graphically nice, but you are the only one who has a video talking about what you do and what you're good at and what you like. I think that's going to help you. I really do. So I'm very sincere in that belief. So if you haven't made any videos yet, you might want to consider it. All right, let's go. We have time for maybe just a couple of more. Then I've got to switch gears and produce videos for the Amazon Influencer Program. Describe a time when you had to be careful talking about sensitive information. How did you do it? That is an excellent question. I'm not going to deal with that right now. That's one I think I would need to actually reflect on a little more. I can think of one where there was a question that came up. It may have even been yesterday. And there was a particular word that people used to use when talking about someone with mental inadequacies. It's considered a horrible word to use now. I'm trying to think now, how can I talk about the fact that I was thinking of the word, wanted to say it, didn't want to appear insensitive, and then talked around it. But I haven't yet worked through my brain how to talk about that in a way where either I don't come across as insensitive or that it doesn't seem a little rambling. So I have to reflect on that a little bit more. What would you do if you misunderstood an important communication at work? I'd have to think about what that question even means. Describe a time when you had to convey sensitive information to someone you didn't know well. That's a fantastic question. This is something I'm studying right now and reading just finished a fantastic new book by the author Charles Duhigg. Many of you know him from The Power of Habit, but he had a fantastic book come out last year about communication that deals with those issues. I just finished it at, I think, 5 a.m. today. And don't worry, I wasn't reading all night. I woke up at 4:30. I'm going to let that germinate in my brain a little longer before I answer that one. How did you react the last time you made a valid argument and knew your colleagues didn't agree? Okay. That's interesting. I know a lot of things I could say about that question. I'm not quite sure how I would tailor that answer into certain principles and tips and techniques that would help the average person. I've got to think about that. Okay. So I want to see if there's any others that I really, really like. There were also some questions from this list that I did long form videos on and did not yet do short form videos for. Here's one. How can I set a realistic expectation for myself to reduce anxiety about public speaking? That one I like. Okay. How can you create realistic expectations when it comes to reducing your anxiety about public speaking? People come to me all the time and say, TJ, I'm nervous. If I work on this, maybe an hour a week for the next 2 years, I'll be great. It doesn't take that long. You're overcomplicating things. If you're nervous about sending out a memo or an email with lots of spelling errors, do you want to worry about it for the next year, or do you want to use spell check and edit it right now? If you're worried about swimming, are you going to think about it for the next year? Or are you going to go get swimming lessons and then go swimming? When it comes to anxiety about speaking, the answer is very simple. Practice your presentation on video. Keep doing it till you like what you see. Once you like what you see, you won't be nervous any longer. You can get rid of anxiety about speaking in one day. So another blunder there. But again, those things are easy to cut out. I made a mistake, but I didn't say, oh my God, this is awful. This is terrible. Whoa. I didn't talk myself down. I didn't go into a funk. I simply stopped, backed up to the beginning of the sentence, paused to make the edit simple, and then continued. So if you are doing editing, that's a really, really simple edit. Okay, I'm going to switch gears a minute and we're going to go to the Amazon influencer video. So for that, I just take my phone. I'm going to plug in my receiver. This is a very simple microphone. If you're interested in knowing what microphones I use, go to my Amazon influencer store and you can see the microphones in the tech section. So I'm plugging it into my phone. This way, if I want to stand 5, 10 feet away, I don't have to worry about the sound quality getting worse. It actually sounds just as good because it will be taking it from the microphone, which will be only a few seconds, excuse me, a few inches away from my mouth. I didn't charge it last night. I'm turning it on. And I did get a green light. So I think that's okay. What I like to do before I make 10, 20, 100 videos is at least test the first one to make sure the audio sounds fine. So I'll try to remember to do that now. So I'm going to go and bring this tripod. It allows me to put the phone right into it. I've had a few stabilization issues this week because I have a rug on top of a carpet. So it's for aesthetic reasons for the set because the carpet is too patterned and it was causing too much distraction in the video. So I'm going to hit the camera on reverse. I want to be able to see myself. And I'm going to try to stabilize it. I do not want it to fall down. I'm trying to get it so that the curtains behind me are what people will see. I have a simple, I've got to turn on the remote control. This way I don't have to like start by touching the camera, stepping back and doing it, and then doing that and spending the time to edit that out. I'm trying to be as quick and as efficient as possible with everything that I'm doing because I'm still in a testing phase with the content. Let me get camera 3 for you. So the camera, well, you can still see the camera right here. So I don't yet quite have the framing. I see a little bit above the curtain. Okay, this is more where we want to be. All right, so let me go into my grab bag of content. So I'm just off camera for a minute here. I'm using the same Kenneth Cole leather reaction bag that I now take from home and bring to the office every day. This is one that I did an ad for yesterday, which I really do love this bag. I've had it 15 years. It's so reliable and it always looks great. I don't think it looks any worse to wear after about 15 years. So it's so easy to do a product review for something that has really given you good service and something you love. Okay. All right. Okay. Again, I'm looking at the timer on this. My goal is to do these in 15 seconds or less because the data shows on my influencer videos, the ones that are 15 seconds or less get almost all the views. So I no longer do the longer form. I'm no longer doing horizontal. Now I may go back to that as I learn more and as I get more data and more feedback. But for right now, almost all of my views on my affiliate ads and affiliate product reviews are coming from the up and down, these, the vertical video that are 15 seconds. So that's why I'm doing that. Okay. Okay. The remote didn't work. Let me try again. There's a chance I need a new battery for the remote too. Let's see if that worked. Father's Day is a big deal in my household. My daughter loves me, but she also likes teasing Dad. That's why she got this cup this year. World's greatest farter, I mean father. Okay. So I did a little bit of stumble there. That's okay. I'm not trying to make these perfect. You know what? Let me practice what I preach. I am telling you, if you make a mistake, it's very simple to just delete. So it's only 15 seconds. I will delete that one because I did stumble in the middle of it. So let me just do that one again. Let's see it. There we go. Father's Day is a big deal in my household. My daughter has a sense of humor, likes teasing Dad. This year I got world's greatest farter, I mean father. Brought a good chuckle every time I drink from it. Okay, that one was better. Hope no one's too offended by this or thinks too ill of me or my daughter, but we did get this. Okay. Cascade Platinum Plus. We use these. Let me see if I can pull it out here. In our household, we use Cascade Platinum Plus. All the detergent is right in here. I throw it in the dishwasher and it comes out clean every time. Simple, easy to use, no mess, no spill. Simple enough. Again, some products I feel more passionate about than others. That just happens to be one that we use and we like and works, but I don't know that if it's really any better than any other detergent. I don't know. What I try to do, if it's anything to do with something that could harm someone, I try to avoid it. So, for example, there's the certain flavoring. I have it right here behind my curtain that I do put into my sparkling water. I make sparkling water with a soda stream, but I don't really know. I mean, there's no processed sugar in it, they claim. I think it's healthy, but I don't really know if there's something in the flavoring that could cause damage. So I don't actually do a video on something like that. If it's a food or health-related product, I want to stay clear because I don't want to give anyone bad information. It's one reason why I've not done a video for the Stanley water jugs that are so popular these days. My daughter has a couple. She loves them. But there's been some stories out that if you crack it, there's lead in it, and it could be bad for you. So I don't want to be associated with a product I think might cause some harm. But I might accidentally be doing something with one product and not even be aware of it. Maybe even with this one. You can tell me what you think in the comments if you like. Let's be honest, not every kitchen, not every household smells great all the time. That's why we keep Febreze around. Wow, it's just been the end of a long week. I really try to do 98% or so of my videos in one take. And I think I'm about 50% today. Mm-hmm. All right. Let's face it, not every bathroom, not every kitchen, not every house smells great all the time. That's why my family keeps Febreze air around. A nice little makes things smell better right away. Okay, that one I do think was better. Okay. And Shreya says, hello. Shreya has a question. Hope you're doing well. Thank you. My question is how to read people like a book while interacting. So Shreya, we're almost done for the week. I appreciate you. I'm going to try to answer that. I've got to do 7 more product reviews. for our Amazon influencer sequence focus right here. If we have time before the top of the hour, I will answer that. If not, I will answer that next time we come live. Okay? Thank you so much for stopping by. Let me try to quickly get through these as soon as possible. Okay. If you like hot beverages but don't want to use the microphone or have a tea kettle on all the time, this electric kettle is fantastic. It heats water up quickly, efficiently, and will keep it warm for a long time. We do use this all the time at home. My wife, she works with me in this business, but she works from a home office. I work from an office 5 minutes away. So she's using this more than I do, but I do use it a lot as well at home. And we both like to drink tea throughout the day. If you're looking for the perfect Mother's Day gift, this cup says it all. Mom, we love you. Something my daughter gave her mother, my wife, last Mother's Day. Sometimes we all need a helping hand to get a lid off of a jar. This does the trick. It turns anyone into a Hulk. I don't know if that made 100% sense. I think people can get the gist that I'm saying. It just gives you more strength and really leverage. Okay. I absolutely love fresh garlic in my food, but I don't like crushing it myself. This garlic crush is perfect. It's simple, it's easy to clean, and it works well every time. Okay. Now, this is a fascinating device. My family's only had this for a few months, but it's a fire starter. I mean, it's a lighter, basically. I don't even know how this lighter works. It does it electronically, but I love not having to have matches around the house or a lighter with lighter fluid. It's really fantastic. I forgot to hit stop there. It ran an extra 2 seconds, but it was still under 15 seconds. So I'm not going to worry about it. Okay. So let's see how many we've done. That's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We've done 8 product reviews. Now, I can't actually remember if you know what? I think I've already done the Brita water filters. I wrote a note to myself to do the Brita water filters. So part of what I do is when I'm thinking of these things, I will just look around and see. Something I can always do are books. I would point out to you, most experts for Amazon Influencer and other programs will say, you're not going to make much money on a book. But that's okay. Because what I'm trying to do is really figure out how to get better at being a promoter of other products, because it's a slightly different type of presentation. So I've just stepped off camera for a moment, and I'm going to my bookshelf, and I'm looking to get an even 10 products reviewed. I do think it's good to give yourself specific goals, quantifiable goals, because if you just wait until you're magically moved, you might not ever accomplish anything. Okay. Now this is a good book, and I can tell it's a good book because I have so many pages turned down, and it is written by an extraordinarily respected author, and so I'm going to recommend it. What I don't know is, I think his name is Kai-Fu Lee, but I don't want to mispronounce his name, so I'm simply going to talk about the title of the book. AI news is everywhere. It seems it's the only thing a lot of people can talk about. If you're feeling like you want a little more background, more depth, especially as to what's going on around the world, I highly recommend AI Superpowers. This book will really give you, and now I've gone too long. So again, I'm trying to be very conscious of length for these Amazon influencer videos. And now for some reason, my tripod wants to fall over. So let me get this last one down. Okay. So that has not happened very often. I forgot what I was going to say in the very first second. So again, we only lost 1 second. Artificial intelligence is everywhere in the news. If you feel like you need a little more grounding, I highly recommend AI Superpowers. This will give you in-depth insights on the history of AI, not only in the United States, but China and elsewhere. Barely made the cutoff for 15 seconds, but I did it. Okay. Now, happy money. This is great. The science of smarter spending. Look, everybody wants more money, and money isn't necessarily the root of all happiness or evil, but it is involving emotion. That's why I highly recommend Happy Money to give you a better sense of your money relationships. Okay, that one was 16 seconds, so I'm just going to delete. Science of smarter spending. Is your relationship with money making you happy? I highly recommend Happy Money, The Science of Money. It's a fantastic book that gives you deeper understandings into yourself. Okay, that works. All right, so what I'm going to do in a few minutes, if we have time, let me go ahead and take this off. Oh, you know what I forgot to do is do an initial check to see if, in fact, the volume worked. Whoa, boy. This is a great learning moment. This is a fantastic learning moment. I appear to have absolutely no volume, which means the microphone was not on. You may recall I did say specifically, after you make one video, test it. And I've done that typically. I haven't always done it, but it's always ended up working. Sure enough, I think we have a dead microphone, which means I'm going to have to do everything over again. What I will do now is see if Yeah, folks, this is the unglamorous part. Everyone thinks being a YouTube star, being a social media wizard is fun and games. And this is a relatively painless mistake. But I did just lose 15 minutes of my life because I didn't do one check. Let me walk back to the studio, back into the studio. I think I have another microphone actually charging. I do. Let me switch out, get this one charged. And now, let me put the receiver back in, do a quick check. And I realize this won't necessarily be the most exciting experience for you to see me do the whole thing again, but it is a learning experience. Okay. I've got the receiver in. I'm turning this on. I see a green light. And it's not blinking. It was blinking earlier today. So it was, in fact, trying to tell me, hey, dummy, you're not charged. Don't use this. And I disregarded that highly valuable piece of information. So shame on me. So now the first thing I am going to do is go to those 10 videos now and quickly, let me pull up the right page. I want to quickly delete all of them because if I don't delete them quickly, there is a very real danger I would upload one that had no audio, which if it did go all the way in and get approved, I'd look like a fool. And if Amazon saw it and denied it, then I have sort of wasted their time. And whether it's official demerits or just de facto, it's not going to help my reputation with what I want to do. Okay, so I've deleted all of those. We're going to have to try this again in our remaining time. Okay, so putting this here.
There.
I don't know what that was. Okay. So I don't quite have a foolproof system yet for putting the microphone or the camera on this particular tripod, given that I have a rug on top of a carpet, which does tend to mess things up a little bit. Okay. And I do want to be respectful of Shreya. We're not going to have time to talk about the body language. I will say I have a lot of videos on that. I would ask you if you could go to my YouTube, and it appears you're on YouTube now. If you go to my YouTube channel and just type in the search button, you will see dozens and dozens of videos specific to body language and how to read your audience. And we talked about that even earlier today. Shreya says, yesterday, after your first live session on YouTube, you mentioned you had a next workshop with the Udemy students. On what platform was it conducted? I couldn't find any link to attend it. So typically it's every single Thursday we have a session from 10 a.m. Eastern time to 10:30 that is exclusive to Udemy students, where if you want me to critique your video and not have it shown on YouTube or the rest of the world, it's a relatively private setting just with fellow students. So we send out an announcement typically every Tuesday. So you should hear about that next Tuesday. But Shreya, thank you so much for stopping by. Really happy. Normally I can go in depth answering your questions, but we're at the tail end of a 3-hour session at the end of the week. So I'm not going to be able to do it now. What I do want to do now, before I completely lose my mojo, is do a repeat of everything we just did, this time with a microphone that works. But let's do a quick check on this microphone. Testing the, oh, I think I turned this off already. Testing the audio to make sure I can be heard and I don't waste my time and everyone else's time. Okay. To make sure I can be heard and I don't waste my time. Okay. The audio sounds fantastic as far as I can tell. So again, shame on me for not doing that little bit of due diligence. I would have saved time. So let me just go in reverse order now, and we'll try to crank these out quickly. Everybody likes money, everybody needs money, but do you understand your psychological relationship to money? This book, Happy Money, will help you along that path, make you happier and ideally a little wealthier. Artificial intelligence is everywhere in the news these days. If you feel like you want a little deeper background, then I highly recommend AI Superpowers. It goes into the history of AI, the US, China, and elsewhere. It's a great foundation. If you enjoy warm beverages, but you don't want to have the, I messed that one up. I should have put my phone on airplane because a text just came in. So let me delete that one. If you enjoy warm beverages, but you don't want to have to microwave water or have a traditional kettle on all day long, this is the solution. This electric kettle heats my water quickly and it keeps it warm, or tea, all day long. This is almost magical. I no longer have to have matches around the house or lighters with lighter fluid. This electric lighter, I don't even know how it does it, but it lights candles, anything I need. So that's an example of, I think, part of what products and Amazon wants is I'm not giving the scientific official detailed list. I'm just talking about the experience. I like to think I'm the Incredible Hulk and so strong I can open any jar, but I can't. That's why I love this. It helps me get any jar, any top off quickly and easily. Want to show mom you love her? Well, what better than a cup that says, I love mom? This is a hit on Mother's Day or any other day. I love fresh garlic in my food, but I can't stand mashing it up myself. That's why I love this garlic press. It is clean, easy to use, easy to clean up, and makes my food taste great. Father's Day is a special day in my household. This year, my daughter gave me this world's greatest farter, I mean father. She does have a sense of humor and likes to tease dad a little bit. In my household, we use Cascade Platinum Plus. It's simple, it's easy to use, there's no mess. I take it and throw it in the dishwasher. Don't have to worry about it. Get a big box so it lasts a long time. Let's face it, sometimes kitchens, bathrooms, homes don't smell perfectly. That's why Febreze air is in our house. It quickly makes any room smell better. Now, what I sprayed it and I hit the camera. What I don't know is, did I make a mess on the lens? I'm not quite sure. Well, so it was faster the second time. I hope I wasn't rushing. I've got to wipe off. I got to wipe that off because the Febreze is now on that. So let me just do a quick check to see if that did in fact get on there. I'm taking the tripod out of the way so it won't distract us. And I'm going to go ahead and take the receiver out. Now I'm going to turn the microphone off. Very important lesson in the future. If I turn it on and the green light is blinking, it means I need a charge. So let's just listen one. Kitchens, bathrooms, homes don't smell perfectly. Okay. That's what. All right. So now in our remaining time, I do want to show you again this process of how do you go from concept, product selection, scripting in your mind, shooting the video, producing the video, editing, and if you're going to do any, in my case, the editing was when I hit delete. That's what I mean by editing. You can do things fancier. How do you then upload it into the Amazon store, label it, select it, process it, put a caption, and submit it for final approval so that it can be seen by anyone in the world if it gets on a product page. So that's what I'm going to do as quickly as possible now with these so you can actually understand the process. So the first thing I do, I'm just going to stay it all on my phone, do it as quickly and as easily as possible. I'm going to go to my Amazon page. I then hit the post. I hit go to photo library. I just tap the most recent video. I hit done. It's now processing the video and uploading it. And it takes a few seconds. It's not instantaneous, but it's relatively quick, especially when you're doing the short form videos. And it's almost up. Once it does, I am going to, so this one I don't know if I bought it on Amazon or if we bought it at Costco, but I can't imagine a major manufacturer like Febreze not being in Amazon. So what I'm going to do is instead of searching your orders, I'm going to just search all of Amazon. So I hit the microphone, Febreze Air Ocean. Hit search, and there it is, a 3-pack. So I'm going to tag the product, hit done, title, keep your kitchen, bathroom, and home smelling great. Just a straightforward title, and it's done. Go to the storefront, and now we do the next one. I hit create content. I hit post. I go to photo library. I hit the next one, the cascade. I hit done. It is processing the video. It is uploading the video. It's going to take a few seconds. Let's see, it's called Cascade. I'll put that one back in the box. I want to make sure Platinum Plus. Okay, Cascade Platinum Plus. I'm going to go to that one again. I'm not sure where we bought it, but I know it's on Amazon. Cascade Platinum Plus. And sure enough, there it is. And it's got 92,000 reviews, 5 stars. So I'm not an anomaly there. People do like it. Simple, clean, and efficient way to clean dishes. I have to make sure when I'm doing this that I'm not using any contractions. That doesn't work in the Amazon system. And I need to be fewer than 60 characters. So that one worked. Okay. We are now over our 3 hour time that we'd scheduled for today. Shreya, I'll give you the final comment. My Shreya says, my previous question sounded funny because the answer lies in the question itself, Udemy. I might have missed the announcement about Udemy exclusive live. I'll check it out. No problem. No silly questions here, Shreya. Very happy you're here. Hot topic in India today is India's richest man, Mukesh Ambani's son's pre-wedding ceremony. Rihanna has been hired to perform at the venue tonight for the first time. Okay, I've not followed that specifically, but I do know that it can be a big media issue and a public relations issue when wildly famous performers are hired for private weddings, and it can cause a lot of hurt feelings sometimes. Anyway, Shreya, I look forward to hearing about that more and hearing from you and seeing your speeches and presentations. I'm TJ Walker. Have a great weekend. Please come back and watch the videos because I'll be posting 3 tomorrow and Sunday and Monday. I'm not quite sure when we're going to be going live yet. It might not be till next Thursday because I have to take some time off to work on some other infrastructure issues here. But I hope you have a great weekend. Thanks so much. See you next time.